Hey everyone, welcome to Tactical Foul. I'm Kyle Grew, and this is the second edition of our TCTV Zoom series. Today we have one of the best young coaches around and the man behind the curtain pulling all the strings, making all this happen. Welcome, Cameron Baker.
Thanks for having me, Kyle.
Yeah, of course, man. So the first thing I want you to do is just let everyone know a little bit about you as far as what you do, your roles, different things like that.
First and foremost, I'm a full-time soccer coach in the Tri-County area. I coach at a club called Nationals Tri-County. I coach as an assistant coach for the Northwood EDS team with Sam Huffman. So little college, little club. I'm also the director of coaching for U7 to U12 boys at Nationals Tri-County. So coach and director at Nationals and coach at Northwood.
Awesome. So what teams do you coach at Nationals?
A lot of the younger boys teams,
Okay.
8, 9, 10-year-old boys, and I currently have a 10-year-old girls team on the other side.
Awesome. So what I want to go and talk about a little bit is something we actually share. I think this club means a little bit something different to us rather than some other coaches because we're from the area.
Yeah.
What does it mean being from this area to be coaching at a club that honestly just wasn't even around when we were around?
Yeah, I think you really hit it. Something that trains kids and trains teams, an organization that performs so well didn't exist 10 years ago when we were playing. And I think moving into coaching, you really noticed that there was a gap there.
For sure.
That the players currently that we have in our club are so much better trained than we were, 16, I'm 26, so 15, 16 years ago when we started playing travel soccer.
Right.
And they do it earlier. I have 2012 boys right now, which is the year I graduated high school. And you can tell that most of that team is better than I was as a player going into U11, which is when we started travel. So the players are so much better trained. They start way earlier. And there's a better culture for soccer in this country now. It's on TV every weekend.
For sure.
And that wasn't even available for us for nearly a decade of our lives. So I think it's important that we build something that is unique and helps train really high level soccer players even in our area. We're not Metro Detroit, but we can still produce really good soccer players.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of were talking about how it's a different culture. I want to touch on that a little bit. What would you say the culture was like growing up in Bay City, Michigan?
The soccer culture?
Yeah, the soccer culture, excuse
me. The soccer culture was just very raw. The kids that liked it, it was just a very authentic love for the game. And I would say most of my memories growing up were pickup soccer. I lived across the street from Carroll Park, and I played pickup soccer against high schoolers for like 8 years. I was playing pickup soccer before I played club soccer. And that was just how soccer was. When my first rec team with my mom, when I was like 3 or 4 or 5 years old, it was like our training sessions were in Carroll Park. And then I played pickup soccer at Carroll Park. And it wasn't until 11 that organized club soccer really came into the scene.
For sure. So obviously you said it's great strides from where it was when we were playing. But where would you say that the Tri-County area still maybe needs to improve to, take that next step and really be, hopefully competing on a more regular basis with, higher population places?
I think the culture still has a long way to go.
Okay.
Number one. is that families really still need to make the choice for their child to play soccer.
Hmm.
And it's really comes down to, if you're looking at the literature or the data of the biggest soccer countries in the world, Brazil, Argentina, Spain, France, England, etc., Western European countries and South America and African countries, the culture runs through their parents, and their parents get the kid into soccer, and they train them at the crucial ages. From 2 to 6 years old, the most important trainer of a child is their parents, which is why we're trying to offer 2 to 6-year-old training with TCTV, because we think it's important for even non-soccer parents to train their kids, because you can. The skills that a 2 to 6-year-old needs are very basic. But the culture is absolutely still needs a few more steps. The parents need to make the choice. They say, no, I don't want my kid to play baseball or hockey or football. I really want him to focus on soccer. Or I want to develop a love, I want my kid to develop a love for the game, and so that he chooses soccer later on. It's really the parents and the families making choices to choose soccer as the number one sport. And that will come with exposure. I think the more soccer is exposed in the country, the more parents will choose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen it already. It has definitely grown. I would say that soccer is becoming more popular for exactly what you're talking about. There are more parents now that played soccer growing up, where in our, I guess era, that's what we want to call it. My parents did not play soccer.
It was rare.
Yeah, my dad barely even knew what it was. So
Right.
That's just how it went. So I want to transition a little bit. We're talking about culture and different things. I want to talk about probably your biggest exposure to, at least a broader, I guess, world culture, going to the University of Michigan.
Yes.
For sure. I mean, a lot more people than, the 30,000 people that are in Bay City, Michigan or whatever. Going there, but not just being there, for school, but getting to watch the women's team. What was that experience like? Talk a little bit about that for me.
Yeah. First, the University of Michigan is just in a big city, and it's tons of people, and
Yep.
they're from all over the world. I mean, you have so many, students, 40,000 students from all over the world. So my freshman year, I was roommates with a guy, Harry, and he was from South Korea. I think he grew up in Metro Detroit, but born in South Korea. So yeah, you really get to meet all different types of people. And then I was an athletic training major, so we always had to work with different teams every semester. And so my last semester at Michigan, I worked with the women's soccer team. Greg Ryan, former women's national team coach, really opened my eyes to like professional looking training, because up until my whole life had been coached by volunteers and dads and moms who were just motivated to help. And it was probably one of the first times that I got to sit through an entire season of professional looking training and professional looking schedules, where they were breaking down training sessions to prepare for a game, to prepare for a specific opponent, to prepare for specific players or tactics that opponent was implementing, changing the style of play or the tactics to win the game. Because for Michigan, it didn't matter so much whether they had the ball or didn't have the ball. They were just adjusting the important tactics to beat the opponent, and you just got to see the detail. The amount of detail that Greg and Dino and the staff would go into to prepare was something I had never experienced in my playing days being coached.
Right.
So really an eye-opener, a huge eye-opener in terms of the coaching side, the coaching world, because there's so much detail that I thought was you just take for granted, I think, when you see it professionally and how much work goes in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, now I do wonder because obviously we coach, fairly young kids, and I mean, for you, you don't coach anyone over the age of 10. Do you now that you're coaching at Northwood, do you get to use that more, what you learned from Greg Ryan there, or is there still a lot that you're able to use even with those young teams?
Both, yeah.
Okay.
The college game is more uh, tactical. You can definitely move pieces like a chess game a little bit more in the you feel that more in the college game, where you could replace one player with another player and it might make a difference, or you can change the positioning of a player and it might make a huge difference in the game. Where younger kids, uh, I don't want to underestimate them. I think I and I actually um, but it is a little different. The focus is much more on their technical skill and applying that technical skill in a certain way. You get much more freedom in terms of how you want to build players, where in the college game, a lot of those players are pre-built in a way, for lack of a better term. You can for sure make adjustments. You can improve players' technique in their 20s for sure. But with young kids, it's much more about getting them to play what your ideal way would be, because they're so completely blank slate. So you really get to put your fingerprint on it. Where a college team, obviously you can affect your team with recruits, bringing in specific players that can drastically change the way you play. But a lot of it has to do with the players that you do receive.
Right.
Where with youth kids, you really can mold a kid in any way you want to mold them.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at it like this, like college players or college teams are kind of like Legos, and these youth teams are like Play-Doh, right? You can do anything you want. Yeah, you can do anything you want with them. So I want to go ahead and, talk about the education that you got. You took a few different little paths, and I think you've gotten some great experience. One starting with, DC United. I think I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, before I got to spend the season with Greg and Dino and Michigan staff, I was at Washington, D.C. I was in Washington, D.C. in an internship with DC United. And I basically volunteered at their summer camps. So I got to coach kids every day for 12 weeks, 11 weeks, something like that. But they allowed us, the coaches in that camp, to stay after and watch academy sessions. So this was the now former Development Academy. There's 16s, 18s, and 23s. There were 3 training sessions back to back. I got to train with the 16s. By the way, I was like 20 years old, and these kids were fantastic. But it was a lot of fun. You got to train for like 10 or 11 weeks with the 16s. Got to sit in and watch the 18s and the 23s. And again, like I was saying a little bit with Greg, that was the first time I had really seen professional, organized training sessions and kids that were super serious and professional and super high quality. So that was, again, an eye-opener at 20 years old to kind of take a step back and view it from a different lens. Because I was so used to viewing soccer from right in the middle of the game, because I played center midfield, and viewing it from that lens. And from the coaching side, when you're viewing training sessions and the way coaches speak to players and their criticisms and their praises, you get a different set of tools basically to use to motivate players and teach players. Where I'd spent most of my playing life barking at players, because I was that type of player. I would just bark and bark and bark if somebody needed to do something, or if somebody needs to get better, or if somebody was doing well. I was a yeller on the field. And then again, taking a step back, it's a completely different world from the playing side.
Yeah, for sure. So we're kind of getting a boat here and go overseas, where I would say probably even more so than either of those two, you were influenced highly with your Spain trip.
Yeah, and I only went my Spain trips are probably in line with one of my most influential educational trips. I only went to Spain because of 343
Okay.
and that coaching education that Gary and Brian have built over there. And um, those guys completely took the blinders off for me in terms of what young American players could do when they were trained the correct way. And obviously a fantastic team was constructed for them to do what they did. But
Right.
and they're really seeing the benefits of that now. They have some guys going over to Europe, going pro, and they really are outstanding from what they do. But 343 was my first eye opener, and they really pushed a lot of their coaches that were in their coaching education to push themselves and go experience the world. And so when I was leaving Michigan, I thought, okay, like I'll do it then. I'll take their advice, and they actually hooked me up with the contact in Spain to go over to Spain.
Oh, wow.
But yes, a huge eye opener. You got to see 6-year-olds that look like professionals. I mean, the way they come in, the way how focused they are and how intense they are. It's such an eye opener to see what young European players look like in these academies. All Barcelona, Espanyol, Cornellà, La Hospital, Juniors FC. There's more that I'm forgetting. We went to so many clubs, but these young players are very serious and they're very focused on what they want to do because their idols are the greatest players. They grow up watching these phenomenal players. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and then obviously from there, it's kind of just a snowball effect. I mean, I think once you have all those experiences, I think at that point you probably know you're ready to break into the coaching world and start your career. Walk us through a little bit of how that transpired, how you first got to break into the coaching world.
Once I made the decision that I was going to coach soccer, it was a lot of education, getting licenses, going to the convention, going to Spain, using those things to kind of form what I wanted to be as a coach, like how I wanted to coach. Both kind of happened at the same time. I went back to my old high school, Bay City Central, and I had coached my sister her senior year the previous year. So I asked the coach again if I could be an assistant, and he was really great. Larry, he let me run basically every minute of every session. So he really gave me a good platform to kind of get my feet wet. And then actually a really good friend of mine that we played in high school together, Andrew, he set me up with his math professor, who was the DOC of a club, Waza Tri-Cities at the time.
Oh,
and he said, hey, Waza Tri-Cities is hiring coaches. I thought of you, so why don't you give this guy a call? So I called him, and I got his voicemail and was like, hey, my name's Cameron, just got back from Spain. Like, I really want to start coaching soccer, wondering if there's any opportunities. And he called me back maybe a couple hours later. He's like, man, it was probably like 3:30 or something like that, which is probably when he got out of Delta class.
Right.
And he said, hey, can you make it to SVSU by 5? There's a training session at 5. I won't be there, but you can, chat with some coaches, coach some kids. So I went there. I got a shirt, a Waza shirt, and the coach at the time, Kyle and Jeff, I went to 2 sessions. They got me involved, and they let me hang out with kids and manage some kids, and that was it. And right after that, I had another interview with Tom, and Tom said, yeah, let's get you involved. So I started coaching in the youth academy, which is basically recreational 4 to, I think at the time was 10-year-olds that were basically rec kids that were trying to, get some extra training in.
That's awesome. So from there, I would say, you start coaching, you get some of your first teams. What do you start learning about yourself early on? What do you think some of the, I guess, mistakes that you made were?
Responsibility with parents. I think my number one issue always is I'm so passionate about the soccer that you get so obsessed with like coaching and building players and uh taking the time to like sit down with a parent and have like a 5-minute chat about their kid goes like a long way for them and for you. And I still know that that's something that I don't always do is making sure that I'm always checking back in with parents. You realize it's not just about the soccer, that
Yeah,
these parents, are investing a lot of money into their kid for us to train them. And they really like to be updated about that. And I have great I have great communication and parent and relationships with the kids I coach. I think we have a really good time together. But definitely sometimes I forget that they have parents that you always have to talk to. And that's not to say that I don't talk to my parents, but I can get a little bit tunnel visioned about just clocking in, training kids, going home, thinking about how they, what are the next steps for them.
right. For sure.
Yeah.
And now obviously come a long way. What are for sure, and maybe you've had it from the beginning, but what do you feel now are some or maybe just one or two strengths that you have for sure that you can kind of put your hat on?
Strengths. No, I would say for the most part, I have good relationships with my players.
Okay.
I enjoy coaching all the players that I, get to coach every year.
Right.
And I think I can't say 100%. I don't think that goes for anybody, but I think passing my passion for soccer to other kids for sure is number one. I think kids like playing. Like when I'm finished with them, they really enjoy the sport. And maybe they're tired of me, but and they're ready to move on to somebody else. But I think I do a good job getting kids in and getting them really jazzed about soccer and really liking it. And then improving the player, taking a player and building their technique and building their foundational tactics and building the competitive side. That was something that is so underrated, I think, in a lot of coaching education. And it was something that was so ferociously hammered in Spain when I did coaching education in Spain, is the intensity of the session and the intensity of each player, like really applying themselves. So I think I do a good job, pushing the intensity of the kid and their technique and their tactics and building, a new player, basically, improving them a lot.
That's awesome. Now I want to get into a little bit of, the growth that you've made. Obviously you're still young, but this year you stepped into a new role as a DOC. What are some of those the challenges that you've come across in taking on that new role?
Yeah, coaching the teams that you have and then managing the rest of the club is new. When you're a coach, just like coaching your teams, I think every staff wants to be collaborative.
Right.
But when you're a full-time coach, you can definitely get into this mode of, I have my teams and I need to focus on my teams. And you don't really you can lose your interest in what your teams are doing or this coach's teams are doing. And
for sure.
So when you're a director and you're running the club and somebody else is having somebody else is having an issue with a parent, that immediately becomes your issue now. and that can be stressful. I would say everything has paled in comparison to the pandemic, but definitely the trying to run every aspect, trying to take your high quality that I'm holding myself to as a team coach and taking that high quality and applying it to every single aspect of the club, the programming, the communication. It can be overwhelming sometimes, but that's the challenge that you sign up for. And it's an exciting one. It's more difficult because it's new, not because, it's a challenge that me or Tyler or Phil don't want to do.
Sure. Last little question before we move on to the next portion of this. But with so much that you do within soccer, obviously, you have nationals, being a coach, being a DOC, Northwood, everything. Taking on all that new responsibility, especially, does it ever get challenging to still have the same amount of love that you have for the game when you started? Or is it just something that you stays with you, and that's why you're able to do everything?
Yeah. The love for the game is not what suffers. It's more of energy levels can suffer if you have a hard time sleeping or something like that. But I would say no. Just because you coach more or you have to worry about more things within the club, or you have different jobs, and a coach would take on so many different roles is because they love the game. Our staff, we have nearly everybody has multiple jobs, multiple soccer jobs.
Right.
And one, that's kind of the only way you can survive as a soccer coach. But two, it's a lot about opportunity. It was a great opportunity. Stevie gave me a great opportunity to work with Northwood. So it's hard to turn something like that down, especially when I'm ambitious and I want to keep testing myself. So yeah, you can't pass it up. Look, is it great to be driving to Muskegon at 5 a.m? No, with a bunch of 22-year-olds that, just got out of bed. Like, no, it's not. But, competing against that coach who's a A or B licensed coach and taking it to him, that's worth the drive to Muskegon. Right. So yeah, there's always give and take. Your physical health can suffer a little bit, your mental health can suffer a little bit, but I think everybody has those stresses in their jobs. At the end of the day, I get to spend my days outside in the sun, sometimes not the sun, but I get to spend my days, involved in soccer, and that's just fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it sounds like, call it a job, but sometimes we get to be a part of the game that we've grown up loving, and it's hard to call it a job sometimes. So for sure. So what I want to do is we're going to move on a little bit, and now I have some rapid fire, a little this or that for you. So you just pick one. Let's try to do it as quickly as possible. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Pele or Maradona?
Maradona.
PC or console?
PC now. Yeah. I'm a big boy now.
Yeah, we're going to stay with the theme. PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
All right. Calls or text messages?
Text.
Fish or chicken tacos?
Fish.
Okay.
Easily.
Black or red licorice?
Black. And anybody who says red is just wrong.
Oh, God. No. Beach or mountain? Tough one.
Families from the beach, but I prefer big mountains. I like snowboarding.
All right. YouTube or Netflix?
YouTube. I don't know why.
Call of Duty or Fortnite?
Oh, you're hitting heartstrings right now.
I know.
I'm such a Call of Duty head too, because I grew up on that game. But currently today, Fortnite.
Okay, wow. I'm a little surprised by that one. I'm a little surprised. Drake or Lil Wayne?
Lil Wayne.
All right.
Amelie.
Hamburgers or pizza?
Pizza.
Yeah. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Yeah. Chelsea 2012 or Chelsea 09?
2012, man. Like, we won a Champions League, and we shouldn't have.
I know.
Taking that team to the grave.
Fair enough. Fair enough. A 1-0 win or a 5-4 win?
5-4.
Yeah, exciting, right?
It's mostly because I pass out at the
end. Awesome. All right, so we're going to move on a little bit. Start, sit, or cut. I'm going to give you 3 players, and you pick which one goes into this category.
I'm gonna roast somebody here. Let's go.
All right, this one's for you. Michael Ballack, Joe Cole, Michael Essien.
Oh!
This one hurts, doesn't it?
Michael Essien starts. He's one of my favorite players ever.
Wow.
Michael Ballack sits, and that's only because he was more consistent. Joe, I love Joe, so I can't. Joe gets cut.
All right.
Joe had some injury. Joe knows Joe had some injury problems, but Joe was a player.
For sure.
Oh, that Man United goal, that little half turnaround.
All right. Next one. Thierry Henry, Cristiano Ronaldo, or Sergio Aguero?
Ronaldo starts, second best player of all time. What was that? Henry and Aguero?
Yep.
That's a tough one. Aguero sits because he's just ruthless, and Henry.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, Henry's arrogance as a coach, he's rubbed me the wrong way. He's so arrogant as a coach.
All right, so here's some attacking mids for you. Ronaldinho, Zidane, or Maradona?
Ronaldinho starts because anybody who knows 05, 06 Ronaldinho is just like complete out of
Look it up on YouTube. Anyone who doesn't know, look it up on YouTube.
Zidane sits and Maradona is out.
Wow. All right, here we go.
I didn't see Maradona play. I can't.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Lampard, Iniesta, Xabi Alonso.
If I said Frank starts, I would be really biased because I think Iniesta is the best midfielder ever. So Iniesta starts, Frank sits, and Xavi, who is also those are 3 of the best midfielders ever, in my opinion. So Xavi sits. But that's just because Frank can't be out. Frank's in the team.
All right.
But Iniesta is Iniesta, man.
Fair enough. 3 of the best young players in the Premier League. Hudson-Odoi, Mason Greenwood, Phil Foden.
Hudson. And that's just because he's got that, like, superstar type thing about him, you know. I'd say Greenwood probably sits. That kid's got something. I just don't know whether he's going to be center forward or a winger. He's got to figure that out, right?
I don't know if he has to, but maybe.
Okay. And Phil's great, but Phil's getting shafted at City.
That's fair.
The only reason I'm saying Hudson and Mason is because they're getting opportunities. Phil probably would be higher than both of them if he actually got opportunities.
Maybe. All right, last one we're going to end with is a little bit of some American players. Just gotta give some of them in there. So Dempsey, Pulisic, Landon Donovan.
Pulisic is number 1. Dempsey sits. Landon can go. He can go.
All right, fair enough. All right, so
though Dempsey against Juventus in the Europa League, that goal is class. It's a great goal.
Deuce had some talent.
Yeah, Deuce was sauce, but Pulisic has this opportunity to
do something better.
Yeah, he's something else.
I agree. All right, so here's your time. You can allow everyone to know what that brain does when given a chance to select an all-time 11. Let's hear it.
Okay, well,
all-time 11.
All-time 11, but it's all-time 11 that I have personally seen.
Okay, fair enough.
I do not select players for an all-time 11 that I have not seen. So Pele does not get in because I understand he scored 1,200 goals in his career, but I saw a total of 0 of them. So I can't make
it in his garden.
All right. So the goalkeeper is and this was probably one of the hardest ones is Gigi Buffon. it was between him and Casillas, but it's GG. Just from like a nostalgia thing.
Fair enough.
The right back is Danny Alves. The left back is Ashley Cole. The right center back is Sergio Ramos. The left center back is Fabio Cannavaro, the Italian captain. That he was one of like the first. Him and John were probably the first two elite center backs that I ever saw. But Sergio had to win 4 Champions Leagues, and he had to be the greatest dude ever. So the 6, 4-3-3, try to be balanced. The 6 is going to be the holding mid is going to be Xabi Alonso. The 2 8s are going to be Iniesta and Frank Lampard. The right winger is going to be Messi. The left is going to be Ronaldo, and down the middle is Luis Suarez.
Oh, Luis Suarez, right? Phenomenal player. That one surprised me a little bit. A little surprised John's not in there for you, but I respect.
It's Sergio's fault, man. I mean,
yeah,
the guy is a freak of nature when it comes to winning.
Yeah, and one of those center backs won a Ballon d'Or. So how are you going to keep him out, right? Yeah. All right. So let's get on with this. We got a little bit of trivia for you. 5 questions. Let's see how well you can do. All right. And I tailored them to you. They're all pretty much they're all Chelsea questions. So
Chelsea questions. Those are hard.
Let's see how you can do. Okay. And you get to name 2 out of the 3. So there's 3 players. You only need to name 2. Okay. Name 2 out of the 3 players who made the most appearances in 2012, 2013 with 6 appearances.
Oh, okay. 2000. This is the Europa year. Ramirez played a ton that year. My second guess would be Juan Mata. My third. Wait, I have to give 3.
No, you just gotta get 2 out of the. 2 out of the 3. So yeah. So 3.
Did I get 2 yet? Or no?
You haven't got.
That's a great question.
2 of them are a little surprising. You got 1 so far, and it's not Ramirez. So
it's not Ramirez.
Not.
Juan did though.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Ramirez played a lot that year.
I'm
only gonna guess 3. So if I get this right, I'm gonna get it right. My third guess would be Branislav Ivanovic. No. Wow.
Oscar.
Yeah.
Juan Mata, and this one's gonna shock you, but Fernando Torres.
That's disgrace right there. What did Ramirez? Do you know how many Ramirez got? I can't believe Ramirez.
No, I don't know. I think he
played a lot.
He wasn't far off. In 2014, who became the oldest player to play for your club?
Mark Schwarzer. Yeah, that dude was like 87 years old.
41, but close. All right. Who in Chelsea history has scored in a single season the most European goals? 11, by the way.
European, so that's either or, right?
Mm-hmm.
11.
Yep.
It's Ollie.
It is. It's all.
Yeah.
Giroud.
Yeah. Ollie Giroud. Last year.
Unbelievable, right?
He scored like 11 and 11. He did it really well.
Yeah, he was incredible. All right. So next question. In the season that you broke 100 goals, how many total goals did you guys score?
103.
Wow. Yeah, 103. Absolutely. All right, last and final question. How many consecutive games in a row at home did Chelsea go without losing?
I don't know the answer to this. It's a lot. It's a lot, though.
It is a lot. It's an unbelievable number.
Yeah. What am I going to guess? I'm going to guess too high. I'm going to try and guess high. 84.
You are as close as you can be. 86.
Oh!
86. Unbelievable. All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up. It would have been unbelievable if you could have got that just to sign us out, but it was quite close. Pretty impressive, honestly. It's been fun. Any last words that you'd like to tell everybody?
If you're watching TCTV, my only comment is give feedback to your coaches. This is a project that we're really. I said to somebody recently, I think it'll probably be the most collaborative thing our staff has ever done, and that's saying a lot because our staff has worked really hard to build the club that we have for the last 6 years.
Yep.
But this is a crazy time, and we're trying to do something that is really out of the box. We were joking as a staff, me and Phil, we were joking that we're 2 weeks ahead of an MLS club right now in terms of what kind of situation they're putting their players into, or content they're putting out. So please, if you have any feedback, give it to your coaches. We want to hear it, whether you like it, you don't like it, what you like, what you don't like. So that is my request.
For sure. Awesome. Well, I thank you for joining me. It has been fun. Always a pleasure. This has been Tactical Foul, and if you're ever wanting to see any more information or hear any more information about Cameron Baker, you can check out our long-form interview that we did over at tacticalfoul.com. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kyle.